All the world's a stage.
All the world's a stage.
All the world's a stage.
All the world's a stage. And all the men and women, merely players.
Merely players.
Merely players.
Merely players.
Boston Podcast Players.
Hi, this is Greg Lamb. I'm the sound designer of Boston Podcast Players, and I'm here with our featured playwright, Ms. Jecenia Isis Figueroa. How are you today?
I'm good.
The topic I want to start off with is being a creative person as a minority in Boston. I had the thought experiment of trying to think of a single Latinx character of fiction from Boston. Like, was there anyone on Cheers? Was there anyone on Spencer for Hire? And for the life of me, I can't think of any. Can you?
No. And I've never actually thought about that, but no.
Yeah,
I can't think of...
white people, there are black people.
Everybody that comes from Boston on screen or in theater, they're all Southie...
Yeah.
Southie, Irish, Italian, kind of that demographic. So, no, I can't think of any story that has had a Latino, Latina...
I can think of maybe a few Asians, like, in MIT or in Harvard, but it's a huge blind spot because there is a good-sized Latino community here, isn't there?
There is. There's a really good population here. Spanish-speaking population, or not even just Spanish-speaking, I mean English-speaking as well, that's here in Boston, but they're not as recognized as in like New York or Chicago or LA or...
So these are the blind spots you work with when you're in the minority of a community that's presented as more homogenous than it actually is.
Yes, that's a good way to put it.
So this featured playwright is working to change that.
Yes.
Her play that we'll read is Dirty Laundry, and it's a one-act play, or is it a part of a larger one?
So I've been struggling with this one seriously because as it stands right now, it's a one act. 10 minutes, one act, straight to the point. But I feel that there's still a little bit more to tell of that story. Yeah. So I have been debating on whether I should expand it and make it into like a full length production.
There certainly is a larger world you could draw on if you wanted to.
Yeah, I really could, and I feel like I could go in I can go in a few different directions, but the problem is that I don't want to take away from the core of the scene that we are going to hear. I don't want that essence to be lost in translation, so I think it's a little bit of a balancing act to bring in the background for these two characters, and then as well tell the remainder of the story without losing that little bit of grit.
Right. Before we get too rolling, do we want to do the 5-minute overview of what the play is about?
I can do it in 1 minute.
Okay.
So basically what the play is about, you have a couple whose son has committed a horrific crime. And at the moment that we are encountering this couple, they are going back and forth as to what do they really do in terms of what's best for their family, what's best for their son, and what's best overall. And it's a bit heartbreaking because you have two parents who they're speaking of their son, but it's not even in that loving kind of way that you would expect to hear. It's a very raw kind of conversation.
Yeah, very raw. And they're obviously, as presented in the play, they're good parents, but their son has just done something beyond the pale.
Right. And it's so surprising, at least, for these characters in their life. It's very surprising because this was not expected of this child. Like, this was not some kid that was out on the streets, committing crimes and, being a criminal. Not at all. In actuality, this character is a somewhat wholesome kid who got caught up in doing the wrong thing.
Right. And we don't usually do trigger warnings in this podcast, but in this case, we might, advise people not to let their kids listen to this. It's kind of rough.
Yeah. This is not for minors. For little kids. It's not for little kids.
What made you want to write about this?
So, this actually stems back to the Boston Marathon.
Right.
So, when...
The marathon or the theater marathon?
No, the...
actual Boston Marathon.
The actual Boston Marathon when the bombs exploded.
Right.
What was that, 2014, I think it was?
It's long enough ago that they made a movie about it.
Yeah.
2 movies about it.
2? We're up to 2. Oh, gee.
Maybe. I don't know.
Yeah,
I thought there were 2.
I know there's been plenty of stuff that's come out since then, but so it stems from there. Basically, I just remember I remember when the city of Boston was on lockdown because they were after the suspect. And, you know, the way the news was coming at it, they made him seem like the most horrific person. And I get it. He did commit a crime. He did do something that was out there. It hurt a lot of people, killed people. So I get it. But the way the news was portraying this suspect, it was very harsh. And he was only 19. Mm-hmm. And I just remember, you know, being on lockdown, looking at the news and just thinking, oh my God, what is his mom thinking right now? Right. Because at 19, you're a kid. You know, you're still a teenager. You haven't really experienced the world. And so being a mother, I put myself into that role, into her shoes. And I felt horrific. I felt bad. And so that kind of sentiment translated over into a monologue, which then grew and became the piece Dirty Laundry.
Right. And do you think that how representative is this of the things that you write?
I would say that it's pretty representative of what I write, in the sense that I tend to want to write or try to convey the rawest of emotions, the realest of emotions. I don't care to be politically correct. I don't care to sugarcoat feelings, and I really don't care to make things easier on the eyes or on the ears for people to listen, because that's not what our world is. That's not the facts of life. So I tend to write things that can be very harsh and that can be very raw, but I try to look at it from a different perspective. Right.
What I could glean of things you've written, you seem to like to write about traumatized people.
Yeah.
People undergoing trauma.
Yeah, you know, that brokenness.
Right.
Yeah, I tend to go there. You know, what breaks a person down? What really, you know, what kind of things do they hold on to? What kind of secrets make them who they are that you would never know? You know, what's lying underneath the surface. So yeah, I guess I do tend to go in that route.
Okay. So you've done some work with the Escena Latina Theater, is that right?
Yeah.
Didn't you produce it, or do you act in it? How are you involved with that?
So for a while with Escena Latina, I was just like, you know, backstage, front of house, you know, doing the little odds and ends and stuff there. And then one day they needed somebody to, you know, just read. We were just like doing table reads and trying to see what play would be put up next. And apparently I was entertaining enough that they said, hey, why don't you try for this role? So then I started doing little acting pieces with Escena Latina. And we actually just wrapped up a show in the summertime, which was really cool. But now I'm going to be transitioning and doing writing for Escena Latina. So hopefully, well, actually, no, I shouldn't say I'm just now transitioning, because we did a piece a year or two ago, a poetry piece.
All right.
And I was part of that. So, but now we're looking at putting up this other play that I have, Marriage, Mentiras, and Mantras. Mm-hmm. And hopefully that will be up for summer 2018.
Do you want to talk about that for a bit?
So what I can say about that one is definitely a full-length production. And it is about a woman who has abruptly separated from her husband. And now she has to get back on her spiritual feet. Mm-hmm. So it's a bilingual piece, English and Spanish. It deals with a woman who is first generation Puerto Rican, and that in and of itself can bring its own little bits of conflict to the storyline. And it obviously it deals a bit with religion, obviously, right? We touch upon Catholicism, Hinduism, Buddhism, Santeria.
Now, Dirty Laundry was also written bilingually, right?
It was.
Yeah. It
didn't start off that way. It was an all English format, but then, you know, I wanted to be true to the characters, and the characters they're Latino, and, you know, so they're going to speak their Spanish whenever it seems fit in the conversation.
Right.
So.
And you let people figure it out by context or not.
Yeah. Yeah, I've gotten better with that. I wasn't so good about that in the beginning, but I've gotten better with that, so that people who don't speak Spanish can actually go along with it and not be held back or not understand what's going on.
And was there a version that's primarily Spanish, or?
Yeah. Actually, so with Escena Latina, they put it on a few years ago, and that was in all Spanish. I rewrote it so that it would be all Spanish.
If we were more on the ball, we would have had your actors record a run in all Spanish.
Oh, that would have been cool.
And we could have done that as a bonus.
Oh my gosh.
If I was more on the ball that day.
No, I wasn't even thinking about that too. So
We were already there. They already knew. They were primarily Spanish speakers, right?
yeah, they are.
Yeah. So they were performing in their second language, but that was but next time.
Next time.
Been looking in things that you've done. You also write poetry.
Yes.
Is that right? And I think you were in a collection called 20 Beautiful Women.
Yeah, so that is a book, 20 Beautiful Women, Volume 3, sorry. It is a book that is co-authored. The publisher, Sava Taco, she managed to get us all together for this volume. And in this, I write creative nonfiction piece, basically. And it's a moment in my life where I felt that I overcame some obstacles and came out triumphant afterwards. Mm-hmm. So, and actually, Marriage, Mentiras, and Mantras, this other play that I'm writing, is very loosely based off of that experience. And
do you find yourself writing poetry as much as playwriting these days, or?
Oh, poetry is way more.
Way more.
Way more.
Mm-hmm.
Every once in a while, a line will come into my head and I just have to, jot it down. And that's what it is. I love writing poetry.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now you were part of TC Squared.
Yes.
And that is tell us about that. That's a writing collective.
So it's also another theater company.
Yeah.
So I started doing Play Lab here with TC Squared. And that's where Dirty Laundry originated from. They also now have a director's program, which I'm thinking about getting into, kind of like expand my skill set a little bit. But it's a small company here in Cambridge, Boston, Mass.
Mm-hmm. And this house we're at is where you have meetings for TC Squared.
Yeah. This is where it all goes down. Yeah, but we've done quite a few productions, and we just did the showcase in May, which was at the Boston Playwright Theater.
Okay.
Which was really, really cool. So we had about 8 playwrights come together. We each gave about 10, 15 minutes excerpts of our plays.
Right.
So it was really cool. It was really fun. And we do it just about every year.
And you did, was it Marriage Mentiras there? Or
Yeah, I did. I did Marriage Mentiras and Mantras there.
So what is your relationship with Boston as a creative space like? What do you think of Boston as a place to do creative things?
Ooh, that's an interesting question.
Pregnant pause.
Yeah, big time.
I'm struggling with this myself.
Yeah, this one's hard. This one's really hard, right? Because you have to be able to make your own creative space wherever you go. But with that said, I feel sometimes it can be a bit difficult here in Boston. I kind of wish that when I stepped out the door, there were more things to catch the eye as opposed to the same brick and mortar that we see just about everywhere. But in terms of collaborations, that's great. You're always going to come across people that are willing to work with you and get projects off the ground, which is really, really cool. I don't feel it's so much competitive here as it could be. Mm-hmm. So I think that lends to the creativity.
I mean, it's not competitive in terms of people going after the same things?
Yeah, I don't think so. I mean, I could be wrong, but I just don't see it that way. I think it's a little bit more collaborative than it is competitive.
Okay. It is a question that everyone in this podcast will be struggling with or thinking about in one way or another, mm-hmm. since we're limiting ourselves to talking with Boston playwrights.
It's tough. It's tough, though.
So what are you working on right now?
So finishing up Marriage, Mentiras, and Mantras, because I have to get it ready for stage. Mm-hmm. That's my priority at this point. Another thing that I have on the list to do, I guess, would be a poetry book. I'd love to get that going, but that probably won't happen until probably later on in 2018. Mm-hmm. And there's a possibility of another collaboration coming up soon, but I'm not definite on where that will go just yet.
It looks like you have a lot of irons in the fire.
Yeah, it's a little bit because it's a little bit like that, right? I have a little something for poetry going. The playwriting is going. I have my eye on trying to do something storytelling wise. That's another little another little project that's kind of come up, but I don't know if I necessarily have the time for it, but I would like to get more involved in with storytelling in the Boston area.
What has your experience been like storytelling?
None. I don't have any. That's the thing, and I'd like to do it. I want to just like jump out the comfort zone and get up on stage and do it.
Well, you've heard of Ken's projects?
Yeah.
Yeah. So he can what is it called? I don't know. Ken Green, a previous featured playwright, has a storytelling series in the Boston area, monthly, I believe, and you can sign up and do it, and they don't even care. So some storytellers care that you all has to be in your head, and you don't have any notes, you don't have a script.
Yeah.
It has to be you and the audience. But Ken was like, oh, if you have it written down, that's fine. If you have notes, that's fine. If you have it all in your head, that's fine. We just want to hear stories.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
So that might be in your comfort zone more than...
That definitely would be, because if I have to sit there and memorize this whole story, I know it's going to like kind of throw me a little bit. So
when I did
baby steps.
I did storytelling a long while back. Sort of have notes in your head, you know, things that you need to say, but you don't have exact wording.
Yeah.
So you have to be able to get the gist of it out rather than having word for word the actual story on your computer.
Right.
So
yeah, that's going to be...
It is fun. It's a feedback from the audience, direct feedback from the audience that you even more intimate than plays.
Ooh, see, and that's scary.
Yeah.
That could be scary.
It's scary.
Yeah. Especially
if you're doing personal stories and not like fairy tales or spins like that.
Yeah.
Is that what you would be doing for storytelling? Personal stories?
It would be. It would be personal stories, and that kind of like, you know, I got to see where's the line. You know, what do I feel comfortable actually sharing?
Right.
And what do I need to keep to myself to kind of help me out? So it's a very thin line.
You want to share, but you don't want to overshare.
Exactly. Because you want people to be able to relate to you and to your work and where you're coming from. But at the same time, you know, some things just need to be kept inside and not shared with everyone. So I'm still trying to figure out where's that line.
Yeah.
Yeah. Hopefully I'll get there soon. So I can do something else. Yeah.
Go look up Ken and yeah, go to one of his things. I think you would take to it.
Yeah, and it's in JP too, which isn't far. Yeah.
Listen to the Ken Green episode for more details. I'm sure we went over it there, but my memory is horrible. So, any last things before we get to your play?
That I hope everyone enjoys it.
I mean, it's a sort of a play that I don't know if enjoy is the right word. It's harrowing, and it moves you. Afterwards, I don't know if you say you enjoy it.
Yeah, maybe enjoy. Yeah, maybe let's change the word enjoy. I hope that people are... Oh, what's that word? When you feel it, when you moved.
Moved. Be Moved.
There we go.
By Dirty Laundry. By Jecenia Isis Figueroa.
Dirty Laundry by Jecenia Isis Figueroa. Ernesto is leaning against the kitchen sink. With his hands in his pockets, he looks off in a daze. The home is quiet, except for the TV that is on in the living room.
There has been a new development in the case against 17-year-old Jaime Costa. Costa is the young defendant on trial for the rape and murder of Amanda Duarte. Duarte's body was found by the Charles River just 10 months ago. I am currently outside of Brigham and Women's Hospital, where the defendant's mother, Luz Costa, was being treated for bodily injuries sustained during an attack by the victim's family right outside the courthouse doors.
Luz enters, slowly walking to the kitchen table. Ernesto jumps, mutes the TV, and dashes to her.
Dios, Luz!
He grabs her face lovingly, then embraces her. She remains stiff.
Are you okay? I was so worried. ¿Qué te hicieron? Esos animales. How badly are you hurt? The news said that...
The news? So you already know what happened today. Ernesto avoids her eye contact and helps Luz sit down. She falls into the chair at the kitchen table. Her demeanor shows exhaustion. A bruised face is visible.
It's been all over the channels. Every single one. Right after it happened. I called the hospital, but they would not release any information. Something about patient privacy. I tried your cell phone, but it was dead.
Why wouldn't you come pick me up? I had to take a taxi home.
I was. Mira, the news is back on.
Sources say the family was angered at the defense's claims that the victim was involved in consensual sexual acts with the defendant. Their growing frustrations were ultimately released on Luz Costa as she exited the courthouse. Doctors have confirmed that Costa did not receive life-threatening injuries and was discharged an hour ago.
I'm home now, Ernesto. No tienes que seguir viendo las noticias.
Luz, you can't go back there. It's not safe. Those people Today could have been so much worse.
Estoy bien, Ernesto.
You're fine?
He grabs her face.
Really? This looks fine to you? Your beautiful face.
It's just a bruise.
Just a bruise. And what if it wasn't just a bruise, huh? What if it had been a few bruises? Or some broken bones? Or your head being banged against the sidewalk?
Ernesto.
¿Y si te hubieran hecho a ti lo que le hicieron a ella? Did you ever think about that? You going to that damn courthouse all by yourself. It's too dangerous. And today proved it. No more. I can't risk it.
Yo no voy a dejar de ir, Ernesto. Iré hasta que todo...
No! Se acabó.
If you're so worried about my safety, dear husband, then maybe next time you should come with me.
¿Yo? Show my face? I don't know why you still go.
Because that's where Jaime is.
And that's exactly where he belongs.
You don't mean that.
Ah, que no? He's destroyed everyone's lives, Luz. ¿No lo ves? Our family is broken. Our good name means mierda now.
We have to stick together. Especially now.
Not with him. Not through something like this. I've worked too damn hard, Luz. You hear me? Too damn hard to give my family a better life than what we had growing up. That spoiled brat, he spit in our face. But nothing. Fancy electronics, allowance money, whatever he wanted. All he had to do was to go to school. That's it. How fucking hard is that? He didn't have to worry about anything. Not like us. And what does he go and do? I don't know how you stand the sight of him. Let him rot in that jail cell for all I care.
So you want me to abandon him?
Abandon him? Pero por Dios, mujer. Is that really what you think? Just because he chose to throw his life away doesn't mean you should too. Do you remember you still have a family here that you need to take care of? We are the ones you abandoned.
He begins pacing.
Did you know that Diana has to eat lunch in the principal's office now? The kids in her class have been bullying her ever since he got arrested. Did you know that? She went online. She knows exactly what he did. Luz, she's only 12. She shouldn't know what rape is. But because of that, Luis stopped going to classes at BU about 2 months ago. Now, this whole semester has gone to shit. 20,000 gone. Wasted. Did you know that? And good luck trying to find Maribel. She won't even answer my calls anymore. I have tried text, emails, even fucking Facebook. Our oldest daughter wants nothing to do with us. She probably went through with it and changed her last name too. And I know for a fact that she didn't get that internship with the marketing firm in New York last month because they found out what her brother did. Our whole family has fallen apart. And you keep going to that damn courthouse.
What do you want from me? Huh, Ernesto? Por favor, dímelo. What do you want from me?
I want you to be a mother to the children you still have. To be my wife again. The second Jaime was arrested, we lost you, Luz.
She begins sobbing quietly. He sits down next to her at the table. His tone softens once again, but he remains at a distance.
I got approved for a transfer to our satellite office in D.C.
Move to D.C.?
The boss wants to help minimize the harassment that we've been getting, especially with what happened today. So I started looking at some houses down there.
Well, you can thank your boss for being so concerned about the harassment me and the kids have been getting. But no thank you. I won't move. And when Jaime comes back...
Pero por favor, Luz, despierta. Jaime is gone. He's going to be in jail for a really long time. And you can't keep waiting for him to come home.
I just want my baby back.
Your baby is dead. Do you hear me now, woman? That piece of shit sitting in jail raped a 14-year-old girl. And...
You don't think I know what he did? I live and breathe it. Cada día que vivo, Ernesto. Do you hear me? Those reporters that you just love to watch on TV, they shove their mics in my face every day. And they ask me how it feels to know that my son will be in jail for at least 20 years. I can't even walk up to the door of my own home without some neighbor insulting me and my children. They want Jaime to burn in jail. And they blame me. Do you know that? Every time I have to walk into that courtroom, walk past her family, the mother of that little girl, and to hear what they did to her. Ernesto, yo sé exactamente lo que él le hizo. Pero no lo entiendo. And I don't know where we went wrong.
We? No. I didn't show him how to torture another human being. I showed him how to work and provide for his family. I showed him how to be a man, not some fucking low-life murderer.
And I did? This is my fault. Ernesto, eso es.
He had a choice, Luz.
The other boys.
No, he had a choice. No one forced him to do anything. He chose to get into the car with those boys, and he chose to bring the little girl with him. Luz, he let those so-called friends do horrible things to her.
You're right. I know you're right.
Finally. Al fin, you are seeing the truth. And tomorrow, you will go to Diana's school and start working on her transfer papers.
No. I'm not moving anywhere with you. I won't leave Jaime.
Pero ¿qué carajo es lo que te pasa? What if that had been Diana, eh? What if it had been our daughter, our little girl that was raped and her mutilated body just left to rot? I would kill the bastard who did that. But you want to put your face on display.
You want me to hate him? Don't you? You want me to see him like a monster because that's how you do. But he's not. I know what the other boys did to her. How they kept trying to keep her from screaming, but Jaime was scared and he
stood there and watched.
You don't think for 1 second he doesn't regret what he's done? He's only 17. He didn't know what to do. And you want me to leave him in that prison with no family, no love, no hope.
Let him die in there. It's what he deserves. He's no...
You want me to stop loving him just because you have. To act as if I didn't carry him inside of me, that I never held him in my arms.
He es un fucking animal.
Él es mi hijo.
Blackout. Dirty Laundry was written by Jecenia Isis Figueroa. To learn more about Jecenia Isis Figueroa's professional works, please go to her website, www.jeceniaisisfigueroa.com. You can also follow her on Facebook, Instagram, or Twitter at Jecenia Isis. Luz La Costa was played by Inés de la Cruz. Ernesto La Costa was played by Juan Pedro Paniagua. Susanne Smith was played by Jecenia Isis Figueroa. The stage directions were read by Allyson Lazar. Special thanks to Mary McCullough, who hosted this recording. Follow us on Twitter at BossPodPlay, BOSPODPLAY, and on Facebook. Please rate us on iTunes or your podcast player of choice. You can support us on Patreon at BossPodPlay. Our theme uses music from Snowman by the Neils. To learn more about the band, see www.neils.com. Playwrights, if you have a script, do not send it to us. We will never have time to get to it. Steal this podcast idea instead.
On the next episode of Boston Podcast Players, we wrap everything up.
Boston is trying, let me clarify. And there's certainly a collection of artists, as we both know, Greg, who are making their mark here. And there's progress. But to me, Seattle felt like they were just further along.
The Boston Podcast Players Season 1 wrap-up. Download on the first Monday of the month.